Members, today you have seen, many of you are there outside participating in the beautiful ceremony, solemn ceremony that we had for all our firefighters. We all love our firefighters. I'm sure each and every one of you would like to introduce individually. It's not going to be possible. This time we had the largest members of uniform firefighters here, 650 who came today, and plus their families. So on behalf of all of you, I would say thank you and welcome. Thank you. Other introductions? Government House Leader.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. In the gallery today is a very good friend of mine. I've known her for a long time. She's a former school trustee in District 43. She now resides in Mission. It's not often I get to welcome too many people here, but Deborah Burton is in the gallery today, and I'd like the House to make her most welcome.
Member for Richmond Bridgeport.
My BC Opposition Party Richmond team, MOA from Richmond Steveston, and I'm from Richmond Centre. It is my privilege to welcome the distinguished representative from the Richmond School District, number 38, in the public gallery today. The Chairperson Ken Hamaguchi, Vice Chairperson David Yan, Superintendent Christopher Yusa, and Secretary-Treasurer Cindy Wen. We are honored by your presence and grateful by your continued commitment to education and the well-being of our students in Richmond. Your leadership plays a vital role in shaping the future of our community, and we look forward to cooperating with you to further strengthen our education system. Thank you for your dedication and service. Please give them a warm welcome.
Minister of Emergency Management.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm also here to welcome our Richmond delegation that is here advocating on behalf of education. They are strong advocates, and I thank them very much for the work that they do. Trustees Ken Hamaguchi, David Yang, Superintendent Chris Uze, and Secretary-Treasurer Cindy Wang. While the member opposite may have given her colleague an upgrade to Richmond Steveston, on behalf of the residents of Richmond Steveston, I thank them very much for their work.
Member for Prince George Mackenzie.
Mr. Speaker, it's my pleasure to be able to introduce for the very first time in this House my wife, Elise Giddens, who's joining in the gallery today. The love of my life. I'm very proud that she's here, and will the House please make her very welcome.
Minister of Finance.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to welcome my cousin, Christopher Bailey, who is here at the precinct today. I'll sneak in, yes, he is a firefighter. If you watched the procession or participated in the procession, you went underneath the giant Canada flag hanging between his rig from Oak Bay and the rig from Victoria. Our family is deeply proud of Christopher, as everyone in this House is, of the wonderful firefighters in British Columbia. Thank you.
Member for Peace River South.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to recognize the presence today in the gallery of my son, Aidan Neufeld. Aidan was able to take advantage of the incredible dual credit program put on between Northern Lights College and South Peace Secondary. And at the very young age of only 21, he was a fully licensed Red Seal mechanic. He's one of my 3 children, of all of whom I'm very, very proud of. So welcome. Help me.
Minister of Agriculture.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm really happy today to be able to tell this House that my baby brother is in the audience. And he's come over from his hometown of Boundary Bay. He's actually the constituent of the member from Delta South. But Mr. Speaker, he also happens to be the fire chief of Delta. But I'm really happy that he's here. Please welcome him.
Member for Salmon Arm, Shuswap.
I'd like to welcome 2 guests today. The first one being hailing here all the way from the houseboat capital of Sycamoose, my constituency assistant for Salmon Arm Shuswap, Amanda Caff. And the second guest is my friend and former candidate, Hamid Nafji. Thank you.
Minister of Housing and Municipal Affairs.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Please join me in welcoming the following guests in the gallery today. We've got Chairman Peter Luckman and Chief Administration Officer Ruben Bronin from the Island Trust. Peter Luckman is the Chair of Island Trust and served as the Thetis Lake Island local trustee since 2005. He's just announced that he'll be stepping down as Chair later this month. He's been providing leadership in the community for almost a decade now. And he's joined by Ruben Bronin, who is Island Trustee Chief Administrative Officer since November 2024, 26 years of working in the Provincial Public Service, most recently Assistant Deputy Minister for the BC Public Service Agency. They're both attending question period to witness the tabling of the Islands Trust annual report and to engage with provincial decision makers on the unique mandate and priorities of the Island Trust.
Member for Skeena.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have the honor of welcoming today my best friend and her brother, Chelsea and Julian. They are in the gallery up there. And after moving up north, I moved up there and I didn't have any of my own family up there. And their family really accepted me as their own and takes care of me up there. And I really appreciate that they were able to come down and be here today. So please join me in making them feel welcome.
Member for Surrey Serpentine River.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to recognize in the House this afternoon my constituency assistant, Deborah Colt. Deborah has been instrumental both in my election and in setting up a brand new riding. So I hope the House would make her feel as welcome as I know she is.
Minister of Labour.
Thank you very much, Honourable Speaker. And as you noted, we did just have a very moving ceremony on the south lawn of the Legislature honouring firefighters who have died in service to British Columbians. And I won't go through the whole list of those who are joining us in the gallery today, but I did want to just introduce Todd Shearling, the President of the BC Professional Firefighters Association, and Steve Farina, Vice President, who is joining us in the gallery today with the delegation, and thank them for their tireless work on behalf of all firefighters in the province and British Columbians. Would the host please join me in making them welcome?
Member for Abbotsford South.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. We wouldn't be where we are as parties if it were not for dedicated staff. And today is a very special day. I understand that our executive director for the BC Conservative Party is in the House, and it is also his birthday. Would you please give a very warm House welcome to Connor Gibson.
Member for Caribou-Chilcotin.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. She is the past mayor of the District of 100 Mile for 17 years, past MLA for 3 terms of Caribou-Chilcotin, and she, believe it or not, is a current city councillor for the District of 100 Mile. She's been Citizen of the Year. She is an amazing volunteer in our South Caribou community, and she is a fierce advocate for all things Caribou-Chilcotin. She is my mentor, Mr. Speaker. She is like a mother to me, and she brought fresh-baked cookies today. Mr. Speaker, would this whole House please welcome past MLA Donna Burnett.
Minister of Arts and Culture and Tourism.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. I'm sorry I didn't get any of Donna Barnett's cookies, but I'll follow up later with the member. But no, I also have a great joy to welcome back a member, former member of this House, MLA Bob Deeth. Bob Deeth now, I can just call him Bob in the House and say his name as many times as I want. But no, he's an incredible artist, incredible advocate. I met him as an advocate for the music industry many, many, many years ago, long before he came to this place. And he's taught us so much as a government, and he's taught the world how to love music in an even bigger way. And I'm glad he's got some time to participate in the music industry once more, but I miss him around this place every day, and I just want everyone to welcome him back. Welcome back, Bob.
Member for Langley Walnut Grove.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I was going to speak to this even before the memorial, but this past Friday, a suspected drug lab exploded in Langley, killing 1, injuring 2, flattening 1 home, and severely damaging 5 more. I would like to take this time to acknowledge the brave men and women of the Langley Township Fire Department that ran towards danger and attended to the injured while keeping my community safe. Also in the chamber today is Fire Captain Jordan Sparrow and Captain Brad Wegasar, President and Secretary respectively of the Township of Langley Fire Local 4550. Jordan and I go way back to our childhood, and who would have thought 35 years later he would be union president and I would be an MLA. So let's give them a warm welcome, and to always keep them and all firefighters in our daily thoughts as they move through their days protecting and serving our communities. Thank you.
Minister of Infrastructure.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. I have some guests in the gallery here today. I'd like to introduce the chambers to Alborz Jabal Lansar, who runs Rumi Translations, a translation agency in North Vancouver. We are also joined by Dorsa Mohabet, who is here from North Vancouver as well, shadowing me for the day. And in addition to former MLAs, Donna Barnett and Bob Deeth, we are also joined in the gallery today by former MLA Terry Lake, CEO of BC Care Providers and former BC Liberal MLA for Kamloops North Thompson and Minister of Health.
Member for Kootenay Rockies.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today I'd like to introduce some very important people from my riding, some people that I would say if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be here. So I would like to thank, first of all, introduce Kevin Seward, who was my campaign manager and now my constituency office manager, as well as our RA president, Vince Miller, and his beautiful wife, Kim. So please make them feel welcome. Thank you.
Member for Kamloops Centre.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I pledge to be on good behavior today because of one of the guests in the chamber, and no, it's not Terry Lake that I'm making that pledge for. He would probably disown me, but my wife Leanne is here from Kamloops for the next few days, and she decided to stop in and see what question period's all like today. So will the House please make Leanne welcome.
If that's the case, we are going to ask her to come here every day. Leader of the third party.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. I'm pleased to welcome the Washington State Legislative Interns to the gallery today. This is the 20th anniversary of the exchange program between our 2 legislative internship programs, and has always been a welcomed opportunity to celebrate the long-standing friendship between our 2 countries, this year more than ever. We recognize how important it is to continue this educational exchange to model the important relationship between our 2 nations. Please join me in making them feel welcome.
Member for Vancouver Kensington.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker, and also joining the Leader of the Third Party, I have the pleasure of introducing our 30 Washington State legislative interns visiting from Olympia today, and they're part of the annual exchange between our 2 internship programs in Washington State and British Columbia. We're so happy that this tradition continues. This is their 20th visit to our Parliament, and as part of the Washington State internship program, their interns work for members of the House of Representatives or Senate while earning academic credit from colleges and universities around the state, whereas our BC legislative interns have already graduated from university. This morning they met with several members of the Legislative Assembly to learn about our parliamentary system and discuss issues of importance to both of our jurisdictions. They're accompanied by Lois Lidstrom, the Deputy Civic Education Director for Washington State, and please join me in giving them a very warm welcome.
Member for Kelowna Centre.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I wanted to rise today to introduce to you my two constituency assistants. So first of all, Catherine Guntes, who's my constituency assistant, as well as my campaign manager. And my second CA, Sonia Sandhu, who also works for Gavin Dew half the week. So please help me in welcoming them.
Member for Kamloops North Centre.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I have three introductions I'd like to present the House with today. First off, I'd like to welcome first-term TNRD Director from Electoral Area A, which is Wells Great Country. That would be Mr. Yusuf Zhao in the gallery. Second up, I'd like to also say there's many TNRD representatives, including Chair Roden, which will be here with Minister of Meetings. But I'd also like to welcome Dennis Giesbrook. He's from my riding. He was our candidate for the BC Conservative Party in our last election in Vernon-Lumby, and now Dennis is a regional director for the BC Conservative Party. And Mr. Speaker, it's with great pleasure I'd like to recognize Kupi George Lampro, Chief of the Simp First Nations, who will be here shortly. Simp First Nations is one of our largest First Nation territories in British Columbia. And as Barrier's previous mayor, Barrier has worked closely with our Simp First Nation, strengthening our relationships, collaborating together, and as their MLA, I will continue to do this. So Cooch Jam, Mr. Speaker.
Madam Clerk.
Introduction of bills. Statements by members.
Member for Burnaby North.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Yesterday was Search and Rescue Volunteer Memorial Day. Every year since 2017, on March 2nd, the ceremony is held at the Search and Rescue Memorial in memory of those who died in the line of duty and to honor all that serve. This year's host was Royal Canadian Marine Search and Rescue, not-for-profit and volunteer-based. It operates more than 30 marine rescue stations along the coast of British Columbia, working in one of the most challenging search and rescue regions in the world. With over 900 volunteers, professionally trained rescue crews are on call 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. They rotate hosting with other volunteer search and rescue organizations, like the BC Search and Rescue Association. In BC, ground search and rescue is all done by volunteers, who are also always on call. Unpaid professionals provide their time, gear, dedication, and expertise to the people they rescue. Provincial Emergency Program AIR also participates. PEP AIR is BC-wide volunteer air search and rescue, with over 400 members who provide tens of thousands of hours of service each year. Their highly trained volunteers search for missing persons, aircraft, and other targets using privately owned planes. They are now joined by the Coastal Nations Coast Guard Auxiliary. We are so blessed to have access to the mountains, valleys, lakes, rivers, and oceans that surround us in British Columbia. But whether we are hiking, camping, kayaking, or otherwise enjoying the back country or coastal waters, things can go wrong. So we are also blessed to have thousands of dedicated people willing to help when we get into trouble in the wilderness. But these missions come with terrible cost. Since 1967, 17 search and rescue volunteers have lost their lives in the line of duty, but their sacrifices can never be forgotten. Thank you.
Member for Prince George Mackenzie.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to pay tribute to the firefighters across our province who put their lives on the line for all of us. These British Columbians are the ones who run towards danger to protect people and property when the rest of us are running the other direction. The BC Professional Firefighters Association is comprised of 56 locals serving in communities across BC and the Yukon. They represent over 4,600 professional men and women firefighters, dispatchers, prevention officers, and support members. I recently had the opportunity to tour Fire Hall number 1 in Prince George and chatted with members of Prince George Local 1372 about what's working and what challenges they're facing day in and day out. I was reminded of the complexities of responding to a call as quickly as possible, from the time dispatchers receive it to having trucks and equipment safe and ready to go, and having trained firefighters on the scene working hard on our behalf. As if fighting fires and saving lives isn't dangerous enough, it's also pretty sobering to understand that the equipment and PPE used is a danger in itself. The procedures for handling this equipment once it's in the fire hall is all about minimizing the risks of cancers, because we all know that the risk of the job is high. The BC Injury Research and Prevention Unit determined that nearly 85% of work-related fatality claims of firefighters in Canada were cancer-related between 2007 and 2021. Firefighters and their loved ones deserve to be protected and supported for all that they do for us. And that's why there's so much support in this legislature for the expansion of presumptive cancer legislation for firefighters under the Workers' Compensation Act. And that's why many of us here in this House just attended the 7th Biennial BC Fallen Firefighters Memorial. And the final sentences that we all heard of the firefighters' prayer are pretty powerful. The prayer reads, I want to fill my calling and to give the best in me, to guard my neighbor and protect his property. And if according to your will I have to lose my life, bless with your protecting hand my loving family from strife. Mr. Speaker, let's all commit to protecting the loved ones of the names we heard today, and let's all commit that they will not be forgotten.
Member for Esquimalt-Colwood.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Again, I'd like to acknowledge the Songhees Esquimalt peoples on whose traditional territory I stand before you today. Today starts Women in Construction Week. This was founded by National Association of Women in Construction. This week is dedicated to celebrating and promoting the role of women in skilled trades industries. It's also an honor to have the same week as we're talking about International Women's Day this upcoming Saturday. In BC, we cannot talk about this important topic without speaking about British Columbia Centre for Women in the Trades, or as they're known, BCCWITT. I will be calling the Women in Trades, it's slightly easier to pronounce. It works to create a diverse, equitable, and inclusive skilled trade industry where all feel welcome, healthy, respected, and safe, which wasn't always the case for women in trades. They pride themselves in not just removing barriers for women, but also for people of Indigenous, racialized people, people with disability, and 2SL LGBTIAQ+ people. It also offers amazing programs such as Connect Her, trades training and employment, bursary and project grant, and many other programs. On this important day, I would like to encourage everyone in this House to check out the amazing website for more details and familiarize yourself with the great work they do, so we can ensure to support women in trades. Women are starting to really see working in trades as a viable option for employment, so we need to do everything we can to ensure that we can do that moving forward. During this week, we need to take the time to thank all of those women in trades. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Peace River South.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It is an honor to pay tribute to Boltry's House and the South Peace Health Services Society, whose dedication to supporting healthcare access has made a profound difference in the lives of so many in northern British Columbia. The story of Boltry's House is one of vision, generosity, and community spirit. The South Peace Health Services Society was founded through the collaborative leadership of the mayors of Dawson Creek, Pouce Coupe, Tumbler Ridge, Chetwynd, and the Peace River Regional District Directors from areas D and E. Recognizing the challenges that patients and their families faced when traveling for medical care, they sought to create meaningful solutions that would ease financial and emotional burdens. One of those solutions was Boltry's House. Named in the honor of the late Dr. Boltries, a respected OBGYN specialist in Dawson Creek. Dr. Boltries was devoted to his patients and community, and his sudden passing from brain cancer left a lasting impact. When his widow put his clinic up for sale, an idea was born to transform the facility into a patient accommodation home for those in need. Thanks to the generous support from the Peace River Regional District, Lakeview Credit Union, local First Nations, including Sotu, West Moberly, and Doig River, as well as a $325,000 grant from Northern Development Initiative Trust, this vision became a reality. Today, Boltree's House is a safe, welcoming, and wheelchair-accessible home located just 1 block from Dawson Creek and District Hospital. With 6 bedrooms, 5 bathrooms, shared kitchen and lounge spaces, and of course, compassionate care, it provides affordable, comfortable lodging for patients undergoing maternity care, cancer treatment, surgery, and more. To everyone involved in this incredible initiative, thank you for making a lasting impact. Boltree's House is more than just a place to stay. It is a symbol of hope, compassion, and the true heart of our community. Thank you.
Member for Vernon-Lumby.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. As we will be celebrating International Women's Day on Saturday, with a heavy heart, yet also with immense gratitude, I rise today to honor a remarkable woman whose impact on our community will be felt for generations to come. In November, our community lost an extraordinary person, Lanella Henke. Lanella was a pillar of strength, a beacon of kindness, care, and a force of love. Lanella's journey was marked by resilience. She lost her battle with cancer mere months after enduring unimaginable loss, tragedy of her beloved daughter, Lenza Henke. At just 15 years old, Lenza's bright future was taken far too soon when she was struck in a downtown crosswalk on July 2024. There are no words to measure loss so profound, yet, in the face of unimaginable grief, Lanella carried herself with grace, courage, and an unwavering love for those around us and for our community. Lanella was a devoted mother, a loving wife, a cherished daughter, and she was friend to all. She made people feel seen, valued, and uplifted, always greeting the world with her radiant smile. In 1990, alongside her mother, Lanella co-founded Vernon's Teach and Learn, a beloved cornerstone of our community, which is a place of joy, curiosity, and connections, a reflection of Lanella herself. Through her work, she brought the magic of learning into countless lives, creating a space where children and families could discover, explore, and grow. We miss Lanella dearly, but her spirit will live on. It will live in the laughter of children exploring the aisles of Vernon Teach and Learn, in the quiet acts of kindness she inspired, and in the strength of a community that she helped shape. I extend my deepest gratitude to her family and to all who had the privilege of knowing her and loving her. May you find comfort in the legacy she leaves behind and in the love that surrounds you. Rest in peace, Lanella. You will be never forgotten. Thank you.
Member for Fraser-Nicola.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today I rise to pay tribute to an extraordinary organization that has been a pillar of support, compassion, and care in the community of Hope for over 30 years, the Fraser Valley Canyon Hospice Society. Since its founding on February 20th, 1995, this remarkable society has provided vital bereavement, hospice services, ensuring that individuals and families facing grief and end-of-life transitions are never alone. Their work is a testament to the power of kindness and human connection. One of their most profound initiatives is Camp Skylark, a bereavement camp for children ages 7 to 12 who have lost a loved one. Since 2007, 425 children have found comfort, healing, and friendship through this program. For 1 weekend a year, these children are simply allowed to be children. Surrounded by nature, new friends, and the reassurance that they are not alone in their grief, many of these young campers, touched by the program's impact, have returned as volunteers to give back to the next generation. The Hospice Society has also been privileged to operate within the Fraser Canyon Hospital, with dedicated staff, Mary Norman and Sarah Robson, working alongside palliative team, including Dr. Wally, Len Van Oort, and Catherine Weeb, and the incredible nurses and hospital staff. Their compassion, CARE ensures that families from Hope to Boston Bar to Seabird Island and beyond receive the support they need. I also want to acknowledge the Fraser Canyon Hospice Board, Catherine Yonker, Brian McLean, Heidi Trotman, and their advisory board, who continue to navigate the challenges of providing hospice care in our rural and remote communities. Honourable Speaker, the Fraser Canyon Hospice Society has touched thousands of lives, offering dignity, comfort, and compassion to those in their most difficult moments. As they celebrate 30 years of service, let us recognize their incredible work and ensure they have the resources to continue meeting the needs and the growing needs of our communities. To the staff, volunteers, and support of Fraser Canyon Hospice, thank you. Your dedication is inspiration to us all. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Madam Clerk.
Oral questions by members.
Leader of the Official Opposition.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Last week, we proposed our plan to apply BC's carbon tax to U.S. thermal coal being shipped through BC ports. The Premier says that he brought it to the Federal Council. Will the Premier today tell this House how much progress is being made and when this can be expected to come to the House?
Minister of Energy.
Well, thank you very much, Honourable Speaker. And as you know, the Government of British Columbia is part of a Team Canada effort to respond to tariffs in the United States. One that builds our province, strengthens our province, diversifies our markets, and works with other jurisdictions. That is precisely what we're doing in this case. And that means when issues are raised here, we take issues forward to the federal government and we work together as a team. I know and I'm hopeful, and we're all hopeful, that the Leader of the Opposition's pursuit of this issue means that he will support the government as we defend Canadians and British Columbians against these tariffs.
Leader of the Official Opposition, supplemental.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I guess I shouldn't have expected an answer with regards to the progress. But Mr. Speaker, here's a reality. It's been 8 years, and no softwood lumber agreement, and our forest industry is in shambles. Over 8 years, this government fought hard against the Trans Mountain Pipeline, against the ability to diversify trade. Eight years, this government closed all 13 trade offices that we had, destroying the opportunity for diversification. 8 years, at least this government initially started, trying to block Site C and the energy that we need. The list could go on and on. So my question through you, Mr. Speaker, to the Premier is this. Why has this government continuously fought economic diversification every step of the way for 8 long years?
Minister of Finance.
Thank you very much, Honourable Speaker, and the member couldn't be more wrong. We have been deeply focused on economic diversification, and I can speak from my own personal experience. Honourable Speaker.
Members.
Mr. Speaker, the other side likes to portray things that in fact are not entirely accurate. For example, the portrayal that we shut all these offices and our trade and investment workers went away. I personally, when I was in the private sector, took advantage of those wonderful people doing this work. They're on the ground, they're working for us every day. People are working in Korea, in Japan, in Singapore, in Vietnam, in Mexico. I could go on and on and on. We have 50 representatives in 14 offices, Honourable Speaker, helping our businesses get access to the markets that they need. This is important work. It is ongoing work, and it's one of the reasons that our trade exposure is 54% instead of 75% or higher like in Ontario and Quebec. This is important work, and we will continue to do it.
Member for Kamloops North. Sorry, Centre.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, that is astounding that the minister is trying to give us a lecture on accuracy of statements in this House. You know, 3 times now, Mr. Speaker, over the last month and a half or so, this minister has stood up with great fanfare talking about hiring freezes in the BC public sector and how they're going to bring costs under control, how they're going to get things under control, because despite, by their words, a good economy, we're running record deficits. Lord help us if the economy falters. So let's look at that time frame, what has happened with this government. In that time frame, this minister has signed off and the cabinet has signed off on 36 new hires and promotions, 19 of them directly under the Ministry of Finance's direction. And Mr. Speaker, these aren't frontline workers, no, no, no. These are public affairs officers, marketing officers, issues management directors, and it's all partisan spin doctors. Why is this government prioritizing more political spin doctors over frontline services?
Minister of Finance.
I hope you caught that.
Honourable Speaker, thank you very much. Thank you to the member opposite for the question. We have brought in a hiring freeze for our public service. This is an important hiring freeze that allows us to essentially flatline our public service growth, and you'll see that continuing in the budget that we'll be introducing tomorrow. The way that it works is that when there is a vacancy, that vacancy is evaluated as to whether it's needed. And there are many examples where we need to fill those vacancies. There are also many examples where we don't. And that decision is made very carefully by the head of the public service under guidelines which are being followed.
Member supplemental.
Thank you. Sorry, I wasn't sure if they were going to applaud that. Mr. Speaker, it's very clear that this government has lost their way. We have no clear direction on the tariff file. Their cabinet minister in charge of that all-star team seems to be more worried about the state of triplex construction in Oak Bay than dealing with the tariff issue. And now we have this minister talking about hiring freezes when the record shows the exact opposite. And if in fact it's a shifting of numbers of people to flatline as the minister is talking about, I'll remind the government, this is a government hanging on by a thread because they're supposed to be getting propped up by the Green Party. Perhaps the Green Party would like to know that in southern British Columbia right now, as we speak, the Ministry of Environment is actually removing frontline on-the-ground biologists and other workers, so the government has $4.2 million to put on paychecks for government spin doctors. Why is this government prioritizing the hiring of spin doctors over staff in the Ministry of Environment that work on the ground daily?
Minister.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. There were many things in that dog's breakfast of a question, but I'll speak originally and first to the question about tariffs. To suggest that we have not been moving forward on tariffs is ridiculous. We have been stepping in strongly on this question in a number of different ways. Our Premier has been leading provinces, very involved in the response across provinces and with the federal government, responding very strongly as part of Team Canada, deeply important. We're working on diversifying our economy both at home and abroad. Minister Gibson has been doing excellent work across the province on this important question, and we're focused on strengthening on our economy. You asked the question, member, I'm giving you an answer. Among many other things, the member has also said that somehow we're hiring more people into marketing roles. The truth of it is, GCPE staffed down in anticipation of the election. That's actually good fiscal management, knowing that their services would not be as needed, and they've been staffing up since, saving us money.
Leader of the third party.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Perhaps something that we can all agree on. As we've just honoured on the South Lawn, firefighters put service over self, risking their lives every day for our communities, a fact that has become all the more poignant as climate-fueled wildfires impact every part of our province. Firefighters across BC have raised concerns about health and environmental risks from per- and polyfluoroalkyl substances, PFAS, carcinogenic forever chemicals they're exposed to in their workplaces. Yet PFAS are still widely used in fire suppression foams. On the day of the BC Fallen Firefighter Memorial, it's vital that we heed their concerns. Honourable Speaker, through you to the Minister of Public Safety and Solicitor General, will this government invest in the health of BC firefighters by transitioning to PFAS-free fire suppression foam?
Minister of Public Safety.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you to the member opposite for the question. Firefighters put themselves in the line of danger every day and as they save life and property. While many firefighters are paid employees, many of them are volunteers. We recognize this. In fact, most communities in British Columbia rely on volunteer firefighters to protect their property. And I commend them all for the service that they do to this province. Our government supports fire departments through investments in training and equipment. Since 2017, more than $17 million has been provided to firefighters and composite fire departments through the Ministry of Energy Management and Climate Readiness. Last year, the province provided more than $6 million for 122 local projects supporting 200+ fire departments. Mental health peer supports for all 15 volunteer fire departments in the Cowichan Valley. Upgrading and replacing equipment for Sandspit volunteer firefighters.
Thank you,
New relay tanks, hands-on training, personnel and demonstration props, all to fire departments.
Thank you.
I am pleased to be meeting this week with some of these firefighters, and I'm going to continue to work with them for the safety of the province.
Thank you. Leader of the third party supplemental.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. While we appreciate the recent strides that have been made, our firefighters deserve better. Studies suggest that firefighters are 3 times more likely to die of cancer than the general population. Cancer is still the leading cause of fatality claims among Canadian firefighters. Despite being classified as one of the most high-risk occupations for carcinogens, firefighters across the province are unable to access coverage for early cancer screenings that could be life-saving. Through you, Honourable Speaker, to the Minister of Health, will this government commit to a proactive health screening program for firefighters to ensure we are looking after those who look after us?
Minister of Health.
Thank you so much, Honourable Speaker, and thank you so much to the member for the question. And it is a good question to ask today because we have the firefighters here with us, and of course, over the lunch hour, we had the opportunity to celebrate and to mark the incredible dedication that these women and men have and how they put their lives on the line. And Mr. Speaker, that includes, as the member refers to, the exposure to carcinogens and to other aspects of danger that can really put their lives in risk. And Mr. Speaker, supporting the health and well-being of frontline workers like firefighters is one of our top priorities. And being able to access early cancer screening for the prevention and detection of cancers is a key plank in helping to keep all people in British Columbia safe and well. We offer 4 different cancer screening programs here in British Columbia, Mr. Speaker, but of course we need to be continually reviewing those criteria and ensuring that people, especially groups of our populations like firefighters who could be at more risk, are there. So, Mr. Speaker, I've had the opportunity to meet with the BC Professional Firefighters Association on this. I've heard them and I've asked BC Cancer to review the criteria that are used and the issue of recognizing the unique risks that firefighters may face, and I look forward to reporting more on that. Thank you again.
Member for Langley Walnut Grove.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. You wake up to the fire alarm. You smell smoke. You head for your apartment's staircase to find that it's on fire. You're stuck. Your building has 1 staircase and you're 6 stories above the ground, hoping that your fire department can come rescue you. Mr. Speaker, this isn't the plot of a daytime soap opera. This is the reality created by this government when they removed the 2 staircase requirement from the building code. Why has this Premier removed fire safety from British Columbians and from our frontline firefighters?
Minister of Housing.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker, and I want to thank the member for the question. And I want to welcome firefighters in the House here today, in particular the good people from Delta. This is not a question to be heckling on. The Leader of Opposition.
Let them finish.
I can't believe the Leader of Opposition heckles a question of safety and importance to the community. But
members, the question was very clear about the issue. Let the minister answer the question now.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. It's important to note that with the change, there's measures put in place to make sure the buildings are safe. We have limited to 6 stories. Sprinklers are a necessity and a requirement of any buildings that go forward. Wider stairwells, smoke management system, Honourable Speaker. And also, Honourable Speaker, it's important to note that we're not the only jurisdiction to do this. Seattle has allowed this since 1977. New York has allowed it for over a decade now, Honourable Speaker. In fact, I met with Seattle fire officials who informed me.
Members. Minister.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. And what the fire officials have informed me is that with these additional measures and what they've seen in Seattle, they have not seen a significant increase in any way to the effectiveness of the safety measures for that building, Honourable Speaker. So we're going to continue to work with fire officials, Honourable Speaker, but it's vitally important that we look at this housing crisis with a new lens, try to create more suites that are bigger for families, allow for bigger bedrooms, Honourable Speaker. That's the balance we've found in this change, Honourable Speaker, and we're going to continue to engage with fire officials as we move forward.
Member supplemental. Member.
You cannot use flawed data. You cannot compare rural BC paid call halls with Seattle. Different requirements. The Fire Chiefs Association of BC, the BC Professional Firefighters Association, and the Greater Vancouver Fire Chiefs Association, that's who's ringing the alarm bell on this issue. A single point of egress simply puts lives at risk. It is the government's job to keep our people safe. My municipality has invested $50 million in the last 2 years alone for our constituents and for our firefighters. This Premier needs to look up into this gallery and tell the firefighters and the members sitting here today and out on the front lines as we speak, why are they cutting fire safety in British Columbia?
Minister.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. First off, I have to correct the member. These buildings are not allowed in rural communities. Members implied that rural communities are included. It's only where communities where there's professional fire service. So that's an important measure. Perhaps the member might want to check in with where she got that source from. Honourable Speaker. Members, again incorrect. But that's okay. We'll continue with the question, Honourable Speaker. It's important, and I can share with the member that just this last week, another important research out of the U.S. was released by the Pew Charitable Trust. Oh, the member says this is
members.
Honourable Speaker.
Members.
The member says this is Canada, not U.S. When we voted to send Trump a message last week, 5 of their members voted with the U.S., Honourable Speaker, and now they're lecturing us.
Both sides. Order, members. Surrey Cloverdale. Members. Minister will conclude.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Again, the Pew Charitable Society did a review of New York and Seattle, and they found over the last 15 years that they could find no evidence that with sprinkler systems and all the measures, safety measures put in, that these buildings are less safe, Honourable Speaker. We continue to look at the research. We continue to find ways to make sure that we can continue to have more housing options, bigger units for families that are much needed in all of our communities, Honourable Speaker, and done in a safe way.
Member for Langley, Abbotsford.
Mr. Speaker, the Kootenay ferry strike is costing locals financially but it's devastating their mental health. A woman from Kootenay Lake contacted me and said due to the ferry strike, her husband's work has cut his hours, costing him $1,000 a month and his pride. They're falling behind on their bills. Fortis is threatening to cut off their power, and she fears her husband will self-harm again. Mr. Speaker, 8 years ago today, I lost my father. I have witnessed seeing how my mom's hardships were, being a single mother afterwards. Mr. Speaker, my question to you, will this government finally act and designate increased ferry services levels as essential so Kootenay families and businesses can get their lives back?
Minister of Labour.
Thank you very much, Speaker, and I thank the member for the question, and I want to say that I understand that people in the Kootenays rely on the ferry system, and I appreciate that they are frustrated with the current disruptions caused by the dispute. And I know that the parties have been at the table all last week through the weekend. I have urged the parties to work with urgency and diligence to resolve this collective bargaining dispute so that life can get back to normal for folks in the ferries. And I continue to state and to send that message that we need folks to be bargaining with urgency and diligence, and we need them to move through and conclude this process so that folks in the Kootenays can get back to normal.
Member for Prince George Mackenzie.
Mr. Speaker, the opposition has been calling on the Minister of Labour to designate better essential service levels during the Kootenay Lake labour dispute. Residents and businesses shouldn't have to suffer. We've also been clear that we support getting a fair contract through negotiations. But yet the minister does have tools and yet has continued to stay on the sidelines even though there are clear options. It's time to get Vince Reddy on speed dial or a senior minister or senior mediator through you, Mr. Speaker, to the minister. Will she commit today to appointing a special mediator?
Minister.
Thank you, Speaker, and again, thank you to the member for the question. I understand how frustrating it is for the community when important services are not available, and I will just remind the House that the phrase essential service has very specific meaning and definition under the BC Labour Relations Code, and that this dispute is in fact governed by...
Member. Minister will conclude.
This dispute is in fact governed by the Labour Relations Code. The board has issued essential services order, and I know that the board is monitoring that order, and that there is, of course, opportunity for community members to express their concerns to the board. But I will say that my message to the parties in this dispute is ensure that you are working with urgency and diligence to resolve this dispute.
Member for Kelowna Mission.
Mr. Speaker, it took a near-death political experience for the Premier to decide he wanted to reset his relationship with the business community. What gets measured gets managed in business, and a series of NDP jobs ministers have delivered virtually zero private sector job growth, while public sector employment swole by 36% under this government. And yet, this Premier keeps rewarding failure by promoting his failed jobs ministers. Two questions. Can the Premier tell the business community what measurable target he has given his latest jobs minister for private sector job growth in 2025? And can he tell us what it would take to actually get fired from his cabinet for poor performance, or does he only fire people for being Jewish?
Minister of Jobs and Economic Development.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The member opposite
is leaning on rhetoric rather than fact. BC's unemployment rate has been below the national average. In January, BC gained 10,300 private sector jobs, third highest among the provinces for private sector job growth. And Mr. Speaker, just to clarify, in case the member opposite has failed to hear that properly, that's private sector job growth. BC has outpaced this nation. BC has outpaced this nation in real GDP growth. BC has been amongst the leading provinces in the last 5 years and continues to leverage private sector investment, significant private sector investment, and will continue to do so as we face, Mr. Speaker, what is an unprecedented challenge. We know, north and south of the border, citizens and businesses are going to be hurt deeply by the tariffs and these threats that are coming as economic challenges we're facing. Our government is standing strong, businesses across BC working to strengthen our economy, and we expect both sides of the House should be stepping up to lean into real facts and figures and really work with our businesses to respond to this challenge.
Member for Penticton-Summerland.
Mr. Speaker, last year 103 children died while receiving government services from MCFD. Given that only 9 of the current 72 recommendations from the Representative for Children and Youth have been implemented, my question is what immediate actions is the Minister of Children and Family Development taking to ensure that no further deaths occur on MCFD's watch?
Minister of Children and Family Development.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker, and I want to thank the member for the question. Anytime a child dies in this province, it is devastating and horrific, Honourable Speaker. I wake up every single morning and go to bed every single night with the sacred stories of children in this province. Anytime a child or family comes into interaction with MCFD, it can be at some of the most challenging times of their lives. Our frontline workers have some of the most challenging work that they have to do. And so immediately our government stood up after the Don't Look Away report that was tabled by the Representative of Children and Youth and took action immediately to ensure that our social workers and frontline workers were looking at checking in with families, ensuring that they had the supports and services that they needed. Over the last number of years, we have increased our frontline workforce by 20%. There's always more work to be done, Honourable Speaker. I look to working with the member opposite on this file collaboratively and will continue to work diligently every day.
Thank you. Member supplemental.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Over the last 3 years, 62% of the children in care that died were Indigenous. Again, to the Minister of Children and Family Development, what is being done to address the systemic inequality that is leading to the disproportionate deaths of Indigenous children?
Minister.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. There is a disproportionate number of Indigenous youth in this province due to the impacts of residential school system and colonization, Honourable Speaker. There are a number of steps that we are taking. We know that children and youth have better outcomes when they're connected to their culture, their family, and their communities. Our province was the very first province to hire an Indigenous child welfare director. We are working with Indigenous communities to ensure the resumption of jurisdiction over children and families in this province. We have signed 4 coordination agreements and are working very closely with Indigenous communities because we know that they love their children and are able to care for their children best, Honourable Speaker. There is a lot of work to be done. Still more work to be done, and committed to working with the member opposite on this.
Member for Chilliwack North.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In the last 5 years,
318 Indigenous youth have died from overdose. More and more every day. Many of these deaths were a result of the government's safe supply experiment. It's tragic when any child dies, but this government continues to feed the fire that is consuming our youth. Mr. Speaker, how many more deaths, how many more children have to die before this government will end this experiment?
Minister of Health.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker, and thank you to the member for your question. It's an incredibly serious one, and one that we know has impacted the lives of people in British Columbia, communities large and small. Mr. Speaker, the member is correct that this has disproportionately impacted Indigenous communities, and that's why it is so important that we continue to take every step possible through the entire spectrum of
Members, please finish.
Mr. Speaker, that's why we're going to continue to invest in prevention, in mental health supports for youth, in mental health supports specifically for Indigenous peoples, Mr. Speaker, in the treatment and recovery so that we build out the full continuum of care and do everything that we can to remove the scourge of this toxic drug crisis. Thank you.
The bell ends the question period. Minister of Housing and Municipal Affairs.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. I have the honour to present the 2023-2024 annual report of the Island Trust.
Minister of Finance. Oh, sorry, you have another one?
Yes, thank you, Chair. This fulfills a trust statutory obligation to prepare the annual report that includes a summary of Trust Council, Executive Committee, local Trust Committee operations, along with the annual report of the Island Trust Conservancy and audited financial statements. The annual report outlines the diversity of work the Islands Trust and Island Trust Conservancy undertook over the past year, support communities, safeguard sensitive ecosystems, and manage development in the special area of British Columbia.
Thank you. Minister of Finance.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. I respectfully present the approved guarantees and indemnities report for the fiscal year ended March 31st, 2024, in accordance with the Financial Administration Act, Section 72, Sub 8. I have two more reports, Mr. Speaker. Pursuant to the Financial Administration Act, I am pleased to present the reports for the fiscal year ending March 31st, 2024 on all amounts borrowed by government and all amounts loaned to government bodies. These reports provide an overview of the province's borrowing activity in fiscal 23-24. And Mr. Speaker, finally, I have the honour to present the Public Service Benefit Plan Act report for the fiscal year ended March 31st, 2024.
Minister of Social Development and Poverty Reduction.
Mr. Speaker, I have the honour to table today the 2023 annual report for British Columbia's poverty reduction strategy. This report provides a comprehensive list of actions across government that contributed to reducing poverty in the 2023 calendar year as required by legislation.
Minister of Tourism, Arts and Culture.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. I have the honour to present the BC Arts Council Annual Report 2023-2024 and supporting documentation.
Thank you. Madam Clerk.
Orders of the day.
Government House Leader.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. I called continued second reading debate Bill 4.
Official Opposition House Leader.
Honourable Speaker, I seek leave to make an introduction.
Is leave granted? Aye. Please proceed.
Okay. I'd like to welcome my former MLA who was in his seat, but maybe has moved. Barry Penner, who served Chilliwack and was a House Leader here during his time as well, and has come to sit with us today, and just wanted to make him feel very welcome.